Welcome to the Christian Contractor Podcast.
Christian Contractor Podcast.
A show created for kingdom-driven Christian contractors that are focused on scaling their business in God's name while positively impacting the world around them. If you're ready to ascend from a contractor to a purpose-driven business owner, we're here to serve you. Here's your host, Brandon Guthrie.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you thinking of me for this interview, and I'm humbled by you wanting to interview me, and I guess the story of Odin and what we're doing over here.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yes, for contractors listening in, I mean, a lot of you are aspiring to do good things in this world and grow and bless your family, but also the world around you. And Wrex has been doing this for quite some time now, and he's achieved a level that many people dream of. And I'll let him speak on it, but it's probably a big combination of his mindset, his drive, and the way he operates. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today because we want you guys to get value from Wrex, and Wrex wants to pay it forward and be able to help you guys reach another level. So this is the secret sauce right here. You listen to this guy, he's doing it. Like, bust out the notepad, bust out the pen. He's going to help you guys improve your business. So Wrex, first off, Odin Energy, awesome company, amazing culture, amazing energy, amazing future that I know Odin has for sure. So give us the story. Tell us where to come from, who are you, and how'd you get here?
Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna have to take it back to the origins, right, of who I am and kind of the story that got me into this business. I grew up in a small town in Utah, right in the center of the state. And when I say small town, it was a small town. Less than 3,000 people.
Wow.
I had 100 people in my graduating class, and I guess even at a young age, being in a small town. First of all, I'm grateful for that, for growing up in a small town, for the things that I was taught, the principles that I was raised with, right?
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, Saturday was work day. Saturday was chore day. We had to do chores. We would go out, work with my dad, work with my mom, and we lived in it seemed like a perpetual renovation. As soon as we got one house done, then my mom would have a crazy idea and want to buy another house, and then we would renovate that house, and so it seemed like we were always in some sort of a construction zone. And so at an early age, I was able to learn at least how to work and how to use my hands to a certain extent. And I have a twin brother who's much more talented than I am when it comes to building stuff and doing that stuff. But I guess that's the foundation of it all.
The guy in the ad, right?
Yeah, the guy in the ad, that's right. That's kind of the foundation, is just my roots, right? I was raised with, in my opinion, with a good direction. I was taught how to treat other people right, to respect other people, and to work. But one thing the small town doesn't do a good job with is really thinking big and going big in the world. And that's one of the downfalls of being in a small town is there's a resistance to that type of thinking, and almost kind of an impossibility, type that's impossible type mindset. And so at a young age, probably in high school, I really didn't see myself, coming back. the name of the town was Monroe. I didn't see myself coming back. I knew I wanted to get out and pursue something bigger, right? And
it hit you. The bug hit you.
The bug hit you, right? And I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I knew I wanted to achieve big. Initially I thought that was to go to school and become a dentist and to make dentist type money, right? And
thought it might be to go to school to be a dentist?
Well, I went to school and I was pursuing the dentistry route, and I quickly found out that's not.
That's news to me. What?
I quickly found out that was not my future. At that point, that was the biggest I was able to think. Right.
Wow.
It wasn't until I was out of that bubble of a small town that I was really able to open up my mind and really see opportunity and let my mind go to those levels. And I still have work to do there. I still have a lot of room to grow as far as mindset and as far as possibilities and I'm one of those believers that think you can accomplish anything, but I have to come a little farther to believe that I can accomplish anything. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of that's the root of where it all came from, right? And as far as Odin, Odin and starting Odin.
Bridge the gap.
The bridge the gap, right? So I got out of the small town. I actually served a church mission in Hungary,
nice.
And that gave me a different perspective, right?
Wow.
I was able to learn a different language. I was able to meet with and learn to love, the Hungarian people, and I still do. And when I came home off that mission, I went back to school and I started just dabbling in different opportunities, in sales, and I got into, Utah is it's becoming a big software state, and especially in the Salt Lake area. So I got into that a little bit, and with a good friend of mine, we were building a software company.
So that's where you have background. You have background in software, obviously, with a little bit of software you've been working on in Odin. So okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So I mean that kind of, I do love and appreciate technology and what it can do for us and the efficiencies that it can create. And so, so that we started building this company that allowed anybody out there to learn different courses. And there's other softwares like that. At the time when we were building it, it was a very, very new idea, new concept. And long story short, it didn't work out for various reasons. We didn't have the funding. We had some developers quit on us, and that's what got me into direct sales and kind of getting into the space of construction. I went out to San Diego and started selling solar panels, and that led me to go to Las Vegas and sell solar panels, where I found a lot of success there, which led me to starting a solar sales company, and then shortly, a couple years after that, I had two partners in that company. I ended up breaking away from them and starting this company. And we initially started selling and installing solar, and that led us to energy efficiency, which the attic has a lot to do with energy efficiency and making the home perform better. And that leads us to where we're at today, as far as really just focusing on attics and ducts. So,
dude, crazy. you came from a humble beginnings, and you got that. I feel like that personality and character that was rooted in you early is the thing that makes you different than probably so many of your competitors. At least I'm in this space, obviously I'm niched in this space myself, and I interact with tons of people in a similar position, and it's not common to like walk the walk and not just do a bunch of this, oh, I'm so honorable in integrity, but it's like, do you really do it? And how do you carry yourself? So that's been that's a big factor, I think, at the little that I've seen, that contributed to your success so far, is having that and carrying that through and through. And that's cool. So you got into it. Software, if it's only a failure if you didn't learn from it, right?
Yeah.
You probably learned huge learning experiences. Look, you got into solar sales, you learned there, and then you created your own company. Like I saw this one picture. There's like a person on one side. It says a guy got a stack of failures on his head, and then the other guy that's succeeding, he stacks the failures as steps to get up higher. So,
well, and honestly, like without that falling through, I probably can honestly say that I won't be here today, right? And hey, maybe had that been a success, maybe I'd be somewhere else with someone else doing an interview, right? But you never know, and all you can know is where you're at now and what got you here, and I'm grateful for that. And you're right, you can't look at it as a failure. It's just another step along the journey, and we're gonna have other steps. We're gonna have other things that we're gonna have to navigate around and hurdle over, and that's just part of life. That's part of business, and especially in the construction space, right? Especially in the trades. There's a lot that gets thrown at you that you have to be adaptable.
Ever-changing environment. For sure. So big time. That's huge. All right, so let's get into the secret sauce. Let's get into some secret sauce. So, if someone that is in a similar space, could be energy efficiency, could be insulation, could be solar panels, could be remodeling, kitchen and bath remodel, could be additions, could be landscaping, HVAC, roofing. It's all very similar. Obviously, it's different in their own respects, but the way that I think that you operate your business is going to be actually the thing that is so much, it's the same between all these different trades, and what can make the biggest difference in your growth. So Wrex is obviously, $15 million company. And growing. And I know that, you've actually hit bigger numbers than that. But he's being humble and using humility, practicing humility here, But that's a huge feat. That's a huge accomplishment. I know there's contractors listening in that haven't even broke their first 7 figures, and I think that a lot of that, well, I'll let you speak to this, but I think a lot of it's mindset, right? And how you carry yourself, how you operate. But with that in mind, let's pretend that person's in this room right here, right now, and he's here asking for advice, like, hey, Wrex, what do I do? How do I get, like, it's kind of tough for me to grow because of X, Y, Z, excuse, probably, right?
Yeah.
Hiring, supply chain, this, that, the other. Like, what's your advice to that person to be able to get over that hump, at least the 7-figure hump?
You kind of hit the nail on the head as far as mindset, right? Life is a game of perseverance, right? And I think it was Alex Hormozy, I was watching a video of him, is like, if you can wait for the results 90 days after the action, right, then you're gonna find success. If you can wait a year, you're gonna be even more successful. 5 years, you're gonna have tons of 10 years, you're gonna be a legend in the space, right? And obviously I paraphrase it. He said it much better than I than I can. Those were his words, and I believe that's true, right? Like, I also in another world, I try to do a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I just got into it, and
nice.
And I have a background in wrestling, so it's kind of been fun to scratch that itch a little bit, you know,
don't mess with Wrex.
the owner of the school I've been going to, one of the very first times I went, he this guy's just a complete athlete. I mean, he's athletically, he can do anything, and he's from the Bronx. He grew up in rough beginnings, and humble, rough. He's seen things that I can't even think about seeing, and he talks about how in our society we think knowing all this information and learning all this information out of books is the sign of intelligence, and he says, I think that's bullcrap. He says, I think the true sign of a genius and the true intelligence is being able to adapt, right? When things are thrown at you, right?
Wow.
And being able to be nimble enough and not so stuck in your ways that you can't look at something from a different angle, and I believe that's true. Like, it hit me really hard when he said it. It's like, if you do not have the ability to adapt, you will die.
Yeah. 100%.
And because this world every day changes something. Something changes, and some days it might affect you, some days it might not.
COVID,
right?
Recession, this, that, the other.
We grew in COVID. Our company grew in COVID, and
some people ran away from the fire, and you were running towards the fire.
Well, it's that whole analogy of what buffaloes do in the storm. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
So buffaloes in a storm, in order to get past the storm faster, they head towards the storm so that they pass through it.
Whoa.
Right?
That's a real thing.
I think so.
Wow.
I heard that the other
cool.
day, and it was super powerful.
Wow.
Right? It's like we can try to run away from the storm, and it's probably going to still catch up to us. But that means we've exerted more energy by doing that, or we can just go straight through it and beat it faster.
Wow.
Right?
That's a good one. I'm gonna steal that.
I mean, you might want to fact check it, but
I'll make sure.
But I did hear that the other day, and regardless of whether that's true or not, I think there's a powerful analogy there, right? Is if we're trying to just run away from some of these changes and trying to do things the same way we've always done things, then we're going to continue to get the same results, and at the end of the day, there's going to be someone that passes you up. There's going to be someone that can offer a better value. And because you're not trying to change to what the world is basically asking, right?
Right.
And you have to be able to
listen.
And you see that a lot in the construction space and the trade, and I think that's one of the advantages that I have, is because I have I have a small town background, but I have a technology background, and I understand that that's a very crucial part of our future, and it's a crucial part of today, right?
100%.
And in technology, you have to be constantly changing. Right, I'm bringing in a different perspective. I'm not the guy that, his dad was an HVAC tech and the grandpa was an HVAC tech, so I'm an HVAC tech. That's not who I am. I brought in a different perspective to the construction world, or in our case, attics and ducts, and I'm seeing it from a different angle. Not just the way my grandpa used to do things, but the way that the world is requiring us to do things. And so I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it's funny when you say that. I'm recognizing a pattern, because I've seen multiple people doing quite well. Obviously the cream of the crop, the top 1%, of people that are doing well are people, I mean, I just identified this pattern of there are people that are kind of from outside the industry, you know, so maybe they're not so stuck in their ways. And so maybe someone that is kind of from the industry or feels like they're stuck, it's like maybe you should just try to think like bigger or different, like step out of the industry.
Yeah, separate yourself from the actual inner technician or the inner whatever. Separate yourself from that and be and try to see things from more of an outside perspective. That could help you see things, right? And so I mean, as far as you know, the secrets and the things that have made me successful, there's a lot of things that has happened that has helped us achieve success and continue to achieve success, right? You say $15-20 million, yeah, in revenue, that's kind of our going rate right now. But I believe we're a much more valuable company because of the assets and the systems that we've implemented and we're continuing to implement.
Just getting started.
To be able to grow into 100, 200, 300, $1 billion company. And the sky's the limit for us. We're going places. We have full intention of growing across this nation into Canada and potentially even further than that.
Wow.
You know, and so it's all about, and that's the type of, you know, the thinking that you have to have if you want to be successful, if you want to be big, you know, whatever your level of success looks like, you almost have to think 2 steps bigger than that, 3 steps bigger than that. Because the reality is, I mean, not saying that you can't achieve what you're thinking, but it's that whole, and whether this is right or wrong, I don't know. I'm just a person, right? But if you shoot for the stars, you might land up in the moon type of thing, and I'm gonna try to get to the stars. My goal is not the moon, but I have a lot higher chance of reaching the moon if I am shooting for the stars. And if I'm shooting for the moon, I don't have that high of odds of getting to the moon, right? If that's where I've limited myself, right? So it's like if you want your business to be $1 million business, then you need to start thinking more on the level of $5 to $10 million. Right.
What's it gonna take to get there?
What's it gonna take to get to $5 million a year? What's it gonna take to get to $10 million?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Literally, that's a mindset shift, and I think we can both agree that so much of it is probably mindset, right? So literally, instead of focusing on this close object, which is the 7-figure object, look past it at the $5 million object. And I'm sure there's some kind of human science, psychology that's like when we aim for 7, our body like compromises and like, oh well, at least this is halfway, so I'm gonna let off the gas pedal. But if you focus over there, it does that same thing, but then it throws you way over your original goal. So that's a great takeaway. You know, audit yourself. What is your goal? And then double, triple, quadruple that. And
then shoot for that double, triple, quadruple. Right? That's your goal. Right.
Not like a fake goal, like a real goal.
No, it's like, hey, like, but you have to set your sights, right? It's like if you're you know, being from a small town, I grew up hunting a little bit, right? And if you're shooting at a deer from a distance, right? You have to aim a little high because that bullet is gonna fall over some distance, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of the same thing in business and goal setting. Is like, hey, you gotta calibrate that shot. You gotta aim at a level so that you can hit that target. You know, because I mean, we don't know what's gonna fall into our paths. And sometimes they're out of our control. Sometimes they are. We have full control over it. But what we can control is how we respond to that, right? And how we have set our mindset and where we've set our aim, right? And sometimes there's a detour. Sometimes we're not going to hit goals in the time frame that we set them. right?
Right.
I mean, I know that's happened a lot in you know in the short career that I've had, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think big. The mind has to expand if you want to achieve levels of success. If you're thinking making $150,000 a year, you're gonna make the most you're gonna make is $150,000 a year.
Right.
That's the most you're gonna make. Chances are you're gonna probably make half of that.
Right.
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 If you're thinking $1 million a year, the most you're gonna ever make is $1 million a year. Right.
Dude.
But if you're thinking $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion, well, and if you end up on a $500 million,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're still way further than anybody else, you know, because of just that mindset. And it takes time to develop that. And like I said, I still have a long way to go in my personal belief. Like, I believe people can achieve anything they want, but I have to believe in myself that I have the capability, that I'm worthy of that.
Right.
You know? And so that's just growing myself, right?
Yeah.
So.
Jeez. So I think that's huge. I think for one big value, one big takeaway is like, shift your sight. If you're trying to hit $1 million, go for 5, go for 10, and actually go for it. Like, hey, worst comes to worst, you actually hit it, right?
Yeah.
And then what you're probably gonna have to do is like, oh, let me think differently, like logistically, cash flow wise, this, that, the other, investments, credit lines. Like, you're gonna change everything to adjust to that new goal. So that's already a huge one. And I feel like a lot of stuff, it's easy for people to say, oh, well, that's easy, but it's like, are you doing it? Like, all this content, all this value that we ever bring on this podcast, I always say, like, everyone knows everything, right?
Yeah.
But are you doing it? And sometimes it takes hearing it at the right moment, at the right time, from the right person for you to finally take action. I know that's how I am. I read books hundreds of times so it can hit me in a different way at a different point in my journey. So for those of you listening in, you know, audit yourself. Are you doing that? Are you setting your sights high enough? That already is going to change how you enter into every single day, every single objective that you hit in your business. So that's huge. So that's some good, awesome mindset stuff there. So they're at 500,000, 750,000 listeners, and they want to get past that million. Aim bigger. Any other practical advice that we can give them that's maybe a little bit more, which that's actually the most important is the mindset, but just so people can also get some tangible, some tactical, even like hiring. You've dealt with a lot of people. Maybe some of these contractors only have maybe an admin person, a project manager, and some subcontractors, and that's it. They got like 2 team members. Like, and are they being held back by any logistics, or what do you got?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously having a team and the right team is important. That's actually a big thing, right?
So maybe that's what.
Well, I mean, I think that goes without saying, right? Like, I think the biggest thing, some tangible, practical things that you can implement today, right? And mindset you can implement today, but it does take time to really fully believe in that dream. And that just takes, you know, learning and developing, and I mean, but something you can take today, and that's something I actually pride myself in being pretty good at is be different, right? And don't be afraid to be different, right? One thing I preach to our team is we want to be the apple, or we want to be the orange, not the apple, right? So when we're going to sell our solution, that we don't have really an apples to apples comparison. You know, now that there's an apple to orange comparison, right? And we've created a package, we've created a solution that that contractor B is not offering. And so now when it comes to a bidding war, like my advice is don't set yourself up to getting these bidding wars all the time.
Right.
One, that's draining, and now that becomes a race to the bottom. You have to discount your prices. You have to, you know, you have to build value in your solution, and you have to be different in your solution, and believe in your solution. And when it comes to how you want to price your solution, now because nobody else is really offering that same solution, you can price and you can put some more margin on it, and you could build more value in the solution. And we all know in the construction and the contractor world, right, margins, you know, with all the overhead are small.